It's been nearly 5 years since the last brand new mainline Zelda game released, with news of the sequel trickling out so slowly that calling it a drip feed would be an exaggeration. As I've had more time to sit and wonder what a sequel to Breath of the Wild might hold, I've kinda come to the realization that I don't think I care. Well, alright, that's not the right wording. I do care. I'm excited. I want to return to the world, and I want to know what the story might hold. I want to experience that sense of adventure that Breath of the Wild gave us 4 years ago. More than anything, I want the sequel to fulfill me in the way Breath of the Wild never did. While I really loved that game and poured hundreds of hours into it and generally hold it in high regard, anytime I think about that game, one of the words that comes to mind is unfulfilling. It certainly wasn't a bad game, and it's not like every Zelda game has to have an amazing story, so I've had trouble figuring out what exactly it is that makes Breath of the Wild feel so unfulfilling. It wasn't until I picked up some of my other favorites in the franchise that it started to make a bit more sense. Breath of the Wild doesn't give me an existential crisis. Don't get me wrong, being dead for 100 years and suddenly waking up with amnesia in a post-apocalyptic world is definitely a heavy concept to deal with, but it's not something that any of us can or likely ever will relate to. I think part of what makes so many Zelda games for me so memorable is the exploration of your own mind and life experiences. They present challenging abstract concepts that even an adult struggles with, or at the very least can remember the struggle they once faced. Let me give you an example. The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time was the first video game I can remember beating. You know, I was once a child, and like many children, I sucked at basically everything. Beating a video game was an impossible challenge, both because of the difficulty and because of the difficulty of paying attention to something for that long. But something about Ocarina of Time enraptured me so much that I had to see it through to the end. I didn't want to watch a YouTube video of the ending, and I didn't want to look up a walkthrough on how to beat it. I wanted to stand on my own 2 feet and see this journey through to its end on my own. And I think the story of the game is a big reason as to why I was compelled to do so. Maybe not the surface, Ganondorf bad, go beat story, but the concepts that the game puts forward through that story. Ocarina of Time is about a young boy burdened with the task of growing up. It sees you thrust into a scary, corrupted, unfamiliar world, leaving your friends behind to take on this duty that only you can fulfill. While traveling from dungeon to dungeon, you're sure to see friendly faces, but it's always a little bit more brief than you would like it to be. That doesn't mean you leave them behind, though. You carry those friendships and bonds with you, giving you the strength to complete your quest. No matter how far you travel or however many years pass, these bonds never break. Ocarina of Time is a game about maturing, overcoming that difficult process of assuming responsibility and growing up. When I think of all my favorite Zelda games, they all center around these abstract concepts that can be hard to reckon with. Growing up, setting out on your own, confronting death, even confronting the idea of being influenced by video games themselves and the emotional growth that playing these games can put you through. The last few big 3D Zelda games have all shared that word unfulfilling to me. None of them are bad, and I really enjoyed playing through all three of them. It's just that I feel that these abstract concepts are being pushed to the side in favor of more cinematic stories. The grand adventure is still there, but I don't think the adventure itself was what made Zelda games such masterpieces. It was the personal growth one underwent while on those adventures that made them so important. So now we get back to Breath of the Wild. It's an incredible game, likely one of the best games ever made, but I always hear a common complaint that the story isn't that good. I don't think it's because any of the characters are bad or unmemorable, or even because of how the flashbacks are presented, hidden away and completely optional, and brief. I think it comes down to that lack of an existential crisis. With Ocarina of Time, I feel as though I'm setting out on a quest of self-improvement to come out the other end a stronger person than I was when my quest began. With Breath of the Wild, I kinda just feel like I'm escaping to a different world, not even concerned with the main threat that I'm supposed to be overcoming. The game's a lovely place to be, but once it's over, what am I supposed to take away from it? How have I grown, and what am I supposed to do now? I guess I just hope the sequel has that answer, and maybe then I'll feel a bit more fulfilled. Hey, thanks for watching. How did Zelda help you grow, and what do you think of Breath of the Wild? What are you hoping for in the sequel? I'd really love to know your thoughts in the comments. I've been wanting to try to make new YouTube videos since like the summer of 2020, and I've scrapped a couple different projects that I had pretty thoroughly worked on. I have a ton of scripts that are just sitting on my Google Docs, but 2020 was rough, so it's been something that I just couldn't do until now, and I'm hoping that by putting this video out there on the internet, maybe I'll have motivation to do some more. So if you like what you saw, let me know by, subscribing or calling me stinky in the comments section. Call me a stinky boy. Call me real stinky, a real stinky little bitch.